All right. Welcome to the director series of Video Store Rejects. And today we have a strange double feature going on today. We are ending one director series and we are beginning another, both with very long filmographies. They have about the same amount of movies. We are ending the Ridley Scott series this month, and we will start our journey with Ron Howard in the new year. But we have already teased Ron Howard last month with Willow, and because it's the holidays, we're going to be talking How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But with me today is a returning guest, Justin Doyle, here
Hey,
here to talk about this movie, and then we are going to get into the movie he's been wanting to talk about. We've talked about before. We're going to talk about it again. The Last Duel, which also kind of goes with you came on earlier this year to talk The Duelist with us, Ridley Scott's
yeah,
first movie. So, how are you, Justin?
I'm good. I'm good, Cody. Thanks for having me back. Uh, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas is one of my favorite holiday movies. I know it's kind of wonky or whatever, but I was obsessed when it came out, and even the soundtrack, like I owned and listened to a lot, and yeah, it was one of the great new additions to holiday classics, I think. And then as far as the last duel goes, that was one of my favorite movies from last year. And because of you and Rob, I've had to see this movie now three times in 1 year, and
Okay, well,
I'm not complaining at all.
I've seen it three times now, twice for podcasting. Did you just watch it the first time in theaters last year, or
Yeah,
did you have to
yeah.
watch it for something else?
No, the first time I saw it was in theaters, and it was I was in New Jersey at the time working for Wild and Out, and I took myself over there because I needed to see this movie. I'm a huge Matt Damon fan, one of my favorite actors, and I'm also big into sort of war movies and period pieces. So this was like right up my alley. So when I watched in theaters, I was blown away, and that was like before I had seen Nightmare Alley and Tenet or Dune. So it was definitely like at my top at that point. Uh, but yeah, it was crazy. I put it on again because I know this movie almost front and back now because I've seen it four times. But um, when I put it on to plan for this week, I was just gonna have it on in the background, and I was gonna do some work or whatever in between. But it sucked me in, and I just ended up sitting there watching it until its completion. So yeah, that's a testament of a good movie. Rewatchability, and then also if you don't want to do anything else while you're doing it, like be on your phone or work or whatever while it's in the background, because it is a long movie and it's hard to take. So, but it is really gripping and yeah, something to be seen.
Well, before we dive into it, and I know you're the guest, so normally I'd ask the guests when we do a double feature which one they want to talk about, but I kind of want to get the Grinch out of the way because you're going to have more thoughts on this than I do.
Okay.
So, if you're okay with that, let's do
Yeah.
the Grinch first and then talk the last duel. So, yeah, I remember when this movie was coming out, it was kind of a big deal because one, this was the first time they did a live action version of a Dr. Seuss story. And everybody knows the animated special they did back in the 60s. It's a classic. It's narrated by Boris Karloff. Everybody knows the music. Random fact, the guy who voiced Tony the Tiger in the Frosted Flakes commercials sings "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch."
They're great. That,
And
that one.
then yeah, this is at the Jim Carrey's announced as the he's cast as the Grinch, which this is still at the height of Jim Carrey being a big box office draw. He had delved into his dramatic works already with the Truman Show and Man in the Moon, but he's a viable movie star at this point in his career, so that was a big get. And interesting enough, Dr. Seuss for years did not want film adaptations of his work. So after he died, his widow or partner, whatever she was, allowed them to buy the film rights to this. And Jim Carrey was one of those actors in the consideration when they made this contract that she would allow to play the Grinch. The others were Jack Nicholson, Robin Williams, and Dustin Hoffman, which, I mean, I guess I could kind of see Robin or Jack doing it. It would be different energies, but I can't really see Dustin Hoffman playing the Grinch.
No way. And Jim's a little bit taller than all those other men, so
he has more of the body build of what you think of the Grinch.
Yeah, lanky. He's got some lanky legs and arms, so he kind of seems larger than a normal human being.
So that was interesting. And some of the directors who were thought of to do this movie was Tim Burton. Tim Burton was someone who was almost in line to do this, but he was tied up with Sleepy Hollow. And Ron Howard initially was not going to direct this. He kind of was just going to come in with Brian Grazer, his producing partner, and kind of secure the rights for them to make the movie. But apparently Ron Howard had a good pitch, and they're like, no, you should direct it, because one of her other clauses to this movie was the previous director's film had to gross at least $1 million.
Oh boy.
So there was a lot of terms and conditions to get this movie made. And a friend of mine posted something I'd seen before when they were, because they shot this film on the Universal backlot, right? Mm-hmm. So they shot this at Universal Studios,
which they always had up a little piece of Whoville, and then they recently took it down. It's no longer there. So when you go on the backlot tour, yeah, it's gone. But it was always like one of my favorite things, because that's the set. That was the set that they used. So it was just really
okay. Well,
awesome too.
They still have it's not like that in Orlando because it's not the movies, but they do have like a Seuss section at the theme park in Florida with like Seuss theme rides and whatnot. But there's a picture of Jim Carrey in full makeup with Eddie Murphy as the Clump, because I guess they were filming the Clumps, the Nutty Professor 2 around the same time.
Hilarious.
And the funny story I heard about this is like when they were not filming because it was close to the Psycho House, that Jim Carrey would dress up in a dress and scare off like tourists when they're on their tour guide.
Nice.
So
it's interesting that any of those other three actors were even chosen or thought about, because the makeup is so extensive in this. It took 2 hours to get into the Grinch costume and then an hour to get out. But also the yellow contact actually wraps around the eye. It's not just on the front of it. It wraps all the way around. So that already in itself is going to be some sort of, it's going to be painful and something you're not used to. I don't see Jack Nicholson being okay with that. Or, I think he would have a lot of discrepancies against doing some things. Whereas Jim Carrey really, put in the sitting hours while the rest of the makeup team, made him look the way he did, which damn good makeup, right? I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, it did win an Oscar for best makeup. Like, it is Rick Baker, legendary makeup artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, those actors were all considered but never approached. Like, they were never like in negotiations or approached to make the movie. Like, once they got Jim Carrey, they didn't even. So that was just the spouse or partner of Dr. Seuss's kind of wish list of people to cast in the role.
Very interesting. She just must like the acting of, Jack Nicholson and Dustin Hoffman. 'Cause I just
Yeah,
don't
I
see it.
guess so. Like I said, I think Nicholson could have brought in some energy, but like I think you're right that like of those actors, Carrie has like the physical
Hmm.
demeanor, and like he was able to still contort his face and body while in that makeup, which apparently when he first did it was not happy about it and even thought about quitting the movie.
Well, it's tough. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine your eyeball being completely covered by, film, and then being in it for 12 hours is just that's a lot. Um, I just can't imagine doing it. We did a set once recently where we needed to put just a contact in somebody's eye, and that was very difficult. We had like four people try to help it out. Can't imagine like a whole wraparound. So, yeah, I mean, he said it was I'm sure it's not as bad, but it was like boot camp, military boot camp, trying to be zen in the chair, getting the makeup put on. But it paid off. I mean, yeah, the Oscar, not only the Oscar, but it shows the quality that they wanted to put into this feature. And yeah, the set design is amazing too. So,
Yeah, I think all the technical stuff in this movie is pretty well done, even though a bit of the live action kind of looks wonky to me with the who's and stuff.
how do you
But
mean?
I don't know, it just seems weird, and it could just be a personal preference. It just seems weird in live action compared to if they had done this as an animated film.
Well, they did again. We
Yeah, I
had.
have not seen that version, the Illumination with Benedict Cumberbatch. I wonder if they have all this added. And that's another thing that I don't vibe with this movie. I don't hate it, but I didn't need a Grinch backstory of why he hates Christmas. I think they do a pretty decent job of showing like how Christmas is represented in Whoville. Like it's loud and like it does seem like it's sort of taking a jab at capitalism and like people missing the point of Christmas and stuff. I don't know if they really are, but because if I remember in the actual storybook and the animated, it's just that the Who's are loud and the Grinch wants to be left alone and like he doesn't care for all their festivities because it's kind of bothering him interrupting whatever he wants to do up in his cave.
I like that part. I thought it was cool to first of all see him as a young, Grinch, but the makeup again was really well done. They used, I guess, a dwarf, a little person, to do that role. Because again, I don't think a kid can go through all that makeup. But I really liked it. It gave him a sense. It gave him a sense of like what his heart could have been and should be, And it also helps Cindy Lou Who get him to the point of being okay with the Who's and Christmas, um, because of love. It's all he was in love,
Yeah, they
and
certainly do increase her role in the story and make her almost the centerpiece of the film.
mhm,
Like her trying to help the Grinch before, like we actually just get the little section of the Grinch story.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
and that's a nice attempt and it's fine. It's just, I just would rather just watch the 60s animated short.
Yeah.
And
How'd you like the music in this?
it's fine. It's
It was
fine. I mean,
nominated.
what is that? The Faith Hill song, and
Yeah.
then
Where Are You
Mariah
Christmas?
Carey helped write the song.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which, if we all know that Mariah Carey knows how to do a Christmas song, right? We've
Yes,
known since November 1st.
since all retail people are afraid of this time of year because of how much that song is played
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
in
Well,
your
just
store.
all Christmas music, because there's maybe like 15 super popular songs, but everyone had to remake them. So, there
Uh-huh.
you just hear the same song, just a different rendition of it.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't tell you how long it takes me to find, like, it took me to find the version of Let It Snow that I actually wanted to hear because, like, almost everybody in the world has done a version of it.
hmm Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of this movie. I'm Jim Carrey's my favorite actor, so this was like, right in my wheelhouse here. Um, and yeah, I just think it was a great, instant classic for me when it comes to holiday movies. Definitely one we watch every year. It's my girlfriend's favorite movie, just period. So it's a big one here in this household. How'd you like Jim's performance?
I think Jim is probably the best part of this movie, even though he's also doing the things I can't stand about Jim Carrey because I prefer him as a dramatic actor than as a
Oh,
comedic actor. His comedic energy is a little too much for me sometimes. I'm kind of like, all right, bud, I need you to chill out. It's sometimes a little loud and all over the place.
yeah. I mean, that's Jim for sure. Um, but we wouldn't get, the energy from anybody else like that. I mean, he does it for an audience. He's definitely an audience man. Um, the whole Ron Howard bit is just hilarious, and that was something that he
Hmm.
did, off on set, and then Ron's like, okay, well, we definitely have to put this in the movie. And only Jim can do stuff like that because if you've seen Jim and Andy the documentary, he's committed to his
Mm,
characters.
maybe a
um
little too much.
right, yeah, maybe for a fault sometimes, but yeah, I mean, what was on screen was really remarkable, and what he did to bring the Grinch to life was is great. There's just a ton of fun. To me, I want to walk around Whoville and just sort of, experience Christmas that way. Because when other people are really crazy excited about something, even if you don't really care about it, you kind of still get into it a little bit. Like if you went to a concert and you didn't really know the band, but like the music is good and everyone's vibing, so you vibe with them. That's kind of like how it is with this. Like it's just infectious. This movie's infectious when it comes to just Christmas and the season, the holiday of it all. So I appreciate that, and that's part of the reason why I think it's another instant holiday classic,
Well,
perfect for this season.
mentioning Ron Howard, there are two members of the Howard family in this movie. One you should know because he's almost in every Ron Howard movie, and that's his brother Clint, who plays, I guess, the mayor's right hand man, kiss
Yeah,
up secretary. I don't know. He basically does
Jeffrey.
whatever Jeffrey Tambor wants him to do.
Yeah,
And then his dad, Rance Howard, which is how both Ron and Clint got into acting as children because he was like kind of like an extra stunt double guy in westerns and stuff. He's the old man that the Grinch steals his alcohol from.
nice. Also, and if this person's not related to them, but Jeremy Howard was Drew Luhu, who's one of the
Is that,
brothers.
yeah, one of the brothers that goes up to scare or goes to the Grinch
Yeah,
house. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's he put a lot of his family in there.
Yeah, and that's cool. There's a lot of people our ages and especially even younger that like this movie. I think part of that is the Jim Carrey of it all,
hmm
because Jim Carrey was a big movie star when we were children. Like he was like that comedic powerhouse for so many people growing up. Maybe part of it was like, oh, this is my Grinch. Maybe they didn't feel like the older Grinch was their Grinch because it was older.
hmm
But yeah, it's a little bit loud and all over the place for me, and I don't like all the visuals, but I will say compared to Cat in the Hat, this movie's a masterpiece, which
Yeah.
apparently there were scripts where this had more adult humor in it than what ended up on screen, which I guess I'm glad they got rid of that cuz that would have made this movie worse, I think. And they were even gonna throw in like a joke about Jewish people with like, oh, there's the Whosteins or the Hoobergs who don't celebrate
Oh,
Christmas.
that's
Yeah,
good. That's good.
but and
Which
then
is Ron
I heard
Howard?
Ron Howard. I don't believe is Jewish.
Oh,
No.
okay.
And then I heard they were gonna have like the severed head of the Cat in the Hat in the Grinch's lair, but they said no, you can't put that in the movie.
Well, it came second anyway.
Yeah. But maybe that was like in script development. Um but yeah, this is I just prefer the original
Mhm.
short that is shown all the time by
Yeah,
Chuck Jones. I think Anthony Hopkins does a good job at narrating though, but I mean it's Anthony
absolutely.
Hopkins. Like
Hmm.
like even when he's overacting or probably phoning it in, it's still probably good.
Yeah, he's a master. Um, yeah, I like this a lot more than you, I guess. Max the dog is so great, such a great little
Mhm.
little fun side character. Christine Baranski's also in this movie. Molly Shannon, who I love. Mindy Sterling. A lot of great actresses. Names that we know. And yeah, Taylor Momsen, who played Cindy Lou Who, is all grown up now.
She's a rock star, right? She's in a
Uh,
rock band.
yeah, she's not really acting much, but yeah, she's rock and roll.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
her voice as a kid wasn't like that great. It was sweet, it's cute. But it's funny that she turned into a rock star. I also think, yeah, because all the Who's have makeup and stuff. The hairstyling and this is a lot of fun. There's like eggnog in her hair once in a cup, which was really cool and unique. And I just think this is really creative. I love the way like the Whoville sort of is oblong. The big bottoms, skinny tops, like everything's sort of decorated interestingly. I thought it was this is almost a perfect movie for me.
so before we close, let me ask two other things. One, what is your opinion of other Dr. Seuss adaptations that they've done?
Well, some of them are mostly animated, right? The
Yeah, I don't think
Lorax.
they've done a live action since Cat in the Hat. I think the rest of them have been animated. Horton Hears a Who,
I
the
like what
Lorax.
Yeah, I like those. I like the Grinch too. I like the new one. Yeah, I think these all work. I haven't seen Cat in the Hat since the theaters, so I can only assume it's just a bunch of junk. But yeah, it looks like Horton Hears Who, the Lorax Dog, and the Grinch, and then How the Grinch Stole Christmas and Cat in the Hat are the five. I like Horton Hears a Who a lot, and then Danny DeVito as the Lorax is like that was a perfect matchup.
And then what do you think of Ron Howard as a director? Because he's not typically a director where people are like, oh, yeah, a new Ron Howard movie, but he is a recognizable name. I would say he's more of a journeyman director. He's good at his job. He'll make a movie on time and on budget, and he can work with actors very well. Like, I don't really know anyone that has anything bad to say about him. But like, I don't know if there's like a distinctive thing that what a Ron Howard movie looks like or what a Ron Howard movie feels like. Because he's kind of done a little bit of everything.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. He's always been the director for dad films.
He's the dad director. I mean, he
Yeah,
has done a lot of dad movies.
like Cocoon. I watched that with my dad all the time, and I didn't know it was Ron Howard director. Splash. That was, I guess, a mom movie. I haven't seen Night Shift, or Willow. Um, but Backdraft, dad movie. Apollo
Hmm.
13, dad movie. A
Yeah.
Beautiful Mind, dad movie, Cinderella Man, The Da Vinci Code, Frost Nixon, Angels and Demons, all dad movies. Good for younger people. I liked Rush a lot. I thought Rush was a really good movie.
Oh, I think that's probably like his best movie in
Hmm.
his recent movies. Yeah.
Hmm. I enjoyed Solo. That's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I didn't mind Hillbilly Elegy. I thought that Glenn Close, stole the show. And then the movie that he directed this year is awesome, 13 Lives.
That's what I've heard. That one's actually pretty good, I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, based off
Kind of
the true story and documentary from last year about the kids that got lost in the cave, and they had scuba divers go and try to save them. And yeah, it's now they made a great movie, live action of it with uh, Viggo Mortensen and Colin Farrell, and I really enjoyed it. It was very. I know this. I knew the story, and I still was. It was still gripping and thrilling, and like, is he gonna get him out? So it's
Do
it's
you think because it was put on streaming that it's kind of been forgotten? Or do you think because it was released in late summer and people that liked it just kind of liked it? They weren't like raving about it. They were just like, it's a pretty solid thriller or solid movie.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I've heard about it is positive things. It's just yeah. I don't think it would have done too well in theaters, and then yeah, I don't know. It's just too bad because the people who are in it are fantastic, and I just didn't know it was coming. There was nobody telling us that there was a new Ron Howard movie coming out, and Colin
What
Farrell's in it, and Joel Edgerton and Viggo Mortensen. You're like, those are huge
Which does seem
powerhouses.
strange, right? I think I remember reading something. I was like, yo, because I think I remember saying this was his next movie. And I was like, but they didn't say when it was coming out. And then, like, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, it's dropping in August or something.
Yeah, I don't even know if he started working on it after the documentary came out, or if he already was working on it, because uh it's it takes a while to film underwater and get all that. It's hard to do that stuff. So uh it's interesting that it came out so quick. But yeah, I've always been a fan. I like Ron Howard. I think he's solid. He, just like you said, he does his job. He puts things out on time, and within the budget. He also likes documentaries. He also did We Feed the People from this year. A couple years ago, he did Rebuilding Paradise, about the Paradise burning, town that burned down.
Yeah.
Pavarotti, The Beatles,
Hmm.
Made in America. How about this one? A comedy, The Dilemma.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn.
There's going to be a lot of first time watches for me with this series. There's a lot of his work I haven't seen.
Let's see. So it starts with Grand Theft Auto. Then
Hmm.
you have a couple of TV movies. Then you go to Night Shift, and
Hmm.
then Splash, Cocoon, Gung Ho, Willow, Parenthood, so on and so forth. What's The Paper?
Oh, The Paper's actually a pretty decent movie. Basically it's a dramedy about a newspaper and they're trying to get a
Yeah,
story published. It's got a great cast. Michael Keaton's the editor,
absolutely.
and it's got Robert
Yeah,
Duvall and
Glenn
is it Glenn?
Close,
Yeah, it's like is it Glenn Close?
Marissa Tomei,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Randy
it's actually a
Quaid,
pretty
Jason
solid movie.
Alexander.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that one I've actually seen and it's pretty good.
Are you going to
But
do his documentaries as well?
I don't think I'm going to cover the documentaries, though I heard he's planning on doing one about Jim Henson, so I may have to cover that one because we're also doing Jim Henson and Frank Oz this upcoming year. So,
Oh, yes. Great. Yeah, man. And also like Ed TV, Ransom. You're right. There's like how the missing. That's Ron Howard. This is crazy.
Yeah,
So
like that's what my wife said. I should call this series. Did you know this was directed by Ron Howard?
yeah, no,
Because
that's
like
funny.
she's like, "What's he directed?" And I started. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know he did that or that
Yeah,
or that."
yeah, yeah. Well, he has two Oscars.
Mm-hmm. Is it both for A Beautiful Mind, picture
Yep,
and director? Yeah.
that's correct.
Which there's
Also,
debate that he probably shouldn't have won for A Beautiful Mind, and he should have won for Apollo 13.
right. Also nominated for picture and director for Frost Nixon. Only twice, only two-time director. That's
Yeah, he
hmm,
did not get nominated for Best Director for Apollo 13 when that got up for Best Picture.
interesting.
Maybe you shouldn't have nominated Mel Gibson, but everyone was in love with Braveheart in 1995, so
Oh, and that's who won. Okay.
that's who won, yeah.
Hmm.
But
And
then
Best
they
Picture.
nominated him again for Hacksaw Ridge, so I don't know. Maybe they're
Uh,
like, so
he didn't get nominated for Passion of the Christ.
no, that didn't get any nominations of that caliber
That's too bad.
or Apocalypse.
Uh, yeah, well, I know Apocalypto was a little tough.
That one I haven't seen. I've heard mixed things as it is with him.
Apocalypto?
Yeah.
Did you
But
like Hacksaw Ridge?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I liked Andrew Garfield in it. I thought it was a little melodramatic. I didn't think it was best picture material in my mind, but I know people that love that movie, so who am I to
Yeah,
judge? Just
yeah.
my personal opinion. I didn't think it was one of the best films of the year.
Hmm.
I felt it was more of a traditional type of Academy story. The true story is more interesting than the movie to me, but that's usually the case with those things.
Right.
But if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the next movie. You are in the camp of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, a holiday classic.
Yes.
I'm of the opinion it's just not for me, not my bag, but I'm not here to argue with you or
Yeah.
poop on your enjoyment of this movie because I don't think that's cool and I don't really like it. And I do kind of get irritated when people ask me, well, you think this movie's better than this movie? And I'm like, dude, it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay if
Yeah.
you disagree with me.
Oh
Like,
yeah, totally.
it's
I'm
just
not.
my enjoyment level of this movie I liked more than this one. I'm not even saying this movie's better made than this other movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm not trying to convince you that it is any better than you think it is. So, I do want to run down the stats real quick. 6.2 on IMDb.
Uh-huh.
A little low. $123 million budget. Worldwide gross 345.8
Yeah, it
million.
was a hit. It was a hit
Yeah.
movie. I know it didn't do well critically, but it
Oh, let me tell you, Rotten Tomatoes gives it 49% with an audience score of 56.
so
So it
that's
is,
actually pretty aligned, which is odd, which is
yeah.
so
No,
it's
normally
mixed
it's,
on both sides.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
But I bet you a
I
lot
think
of
it's a lot higher.
older people at the time, like adults, probably didn't like it because they were like, I want my cartoon Grinch. This is not the
Yeah,
Grinch. So,
exactly. Yeah,
so that's probably part of that. But let's move on to a movie we agree on.
yeah, yeah. No debating over how this Grinch stole Christmas, but we have debated on this movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
we,
I still think this is a phenomenally well-made film.
yeah, um, yeah. You and I debated this movie and Promising Young Woman over on the Fleming Film Show that's what it was called at the time, uh, because it has similar you know, wrongdoings in the movie. But now that She Said came out, also starring Carrie Mulligan, I think that Promising Young Woman and She Said should be more of a debate movie because The Last Duel. and Promising Young Woman may have a similar theme, but their movies are so different. And
Well,
I love The Last Duel, so let's talk about it.
let's talk about it. This is, you know, Ridley Scott is a man well into his 80s and he's a bit of a workaholic. But I think, had he decided after making this movie, I'm going to put it up, I'm going to retire, this would have been the movie to do it on, I think. And not only because it has symmetry with his first title movie, but I just think he would have gone out on a bang. But maybe his Napoleon movie keeps threatening to drop on Apple TV at any moment in time will be really good.
With Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. And this movie shares a very similar story structure that I actually really like how they do it with a classic Japanese film called Rashomon. It's actually, I think, sometimes even referred to as the Rashomon effect. And not only is that film legendary for it being kind of the first Japanese film to get attention, but also just that structure of storytelling with like the different POVs and recalculation of each character's point of view of how events went down or how they believe the events went down. And I know one of the things this film got criticized for is, that it's supposed to be like a commentary on how women are mistreated and no one believes women, but we're having to see this detailed rape scene twice, and it's directed by a man and mostly written by men telling us this stuff. And look, I get it if people don't want to watch this movie for that said scene. I get it. It's a bit rough. And if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. You don't have to. But I do think Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were smart to bring in the female screenwriter to come in and help work on this movie to kind of give that a little more, so it's not just, oh, here's these bros, because seems like a weird thing for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to want to collaborate on.
Mm-hmm.
I have two thoughts with all this. One, did you know that Ben Affleck originally was going to play the Adam Driver role, but had to
Yes.
back out because of production on Deepwater?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you made the wrong choice there, Ben. But I do think Ben is really good in the role. It might be one of his better performances, even though he's kind of playing a medieval version of himself a bit, or at least
Yeah.
what we believe Ben Affleck's persona kind of is like.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie would be even better though, because that duel and that rivalry that starts between Damon and Driver, I think would even be more powerful because of the off-screen relationship we know Damon and Affleck have, not just creatively, but as friends in real life. But I think Adam Driver does a great job.
Oh my God, he's so good. He is so good. I like that it's Adam Driver because, like you said, we know a little bit about Ben Affleck's, sort of past and whatever, and we know Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to be a grouping, but it's almost believable that Ben Affleck would do this to Jodie Comer. Whereas Adam Driver, he's charming. He's one of the, good-looking leading men these days. Uh, so you almost don't want to believe that he would do it. And I think that helps with the story because this movie is broken down into three acts. You have Jean de Cruz view on it, which is Matt Damon. You have Legree's view on it, which is Driver, and then you have the truth, or what Marguerite's thoughts on it, which is the third act, and you get to see some of the same things, but the same time period played out in all three zones there. But each one is told by their point of view. So, and what is the truth? what she says, obviously, we should be believing because why would she lie about it? When she first brought the accusation out, it was, if you're wrong, you will die and immediately. So why would she lie about something that she would just be
Well,
murdered afterwards for anyway?
well, let's break that down by each uh version of this story, and I want to see what your opinions are on this, of what I've heard a lot of people think what happened. So a lot of people are saying they think Matt Damon wrote the Matt Damon section of the movie, right? Where LaGrouge is kind of presented as this very heroic, honorable, stoic man, and he's going to stand up for the right thing and do
For
the
the
right.
king.
And like in this version, he, even though it is an arranged marriage, because there is a big age difference, like that was the, because this movie's based on real events that did happen, and there was a story or a book written about it, and this was going to be done by Francis Lawrence back in the early 2000s, before Damon and Affleck adapted and Ridley Scott got involved. And yeah, this is kind of how the Damon version presents himself. And but in this, even though it's an arranged marriage, he's, in his version of events, he tends to be this loving, doting husband. Like he'll do the right thing. Like the whole estate of the land is because it was promised to her as part of her dowry that they end up giving to Adam Driver. And in the Damon
As a
section,
gift,
yeah.
because
And
he
in
was
the
able to put the king's books in order, or the king's right hand man in order.
And then in the Damon section, when she tells him what happened, he's like, "Well, we got to do something about it. This is the right thing to do. We've got to report this, and we will have our justice." And yeah. Which does not present itself in the other two versions. I mean, there's a little bit of that stoic hard-headedness there, which maybe he's still an honorable person, but in the other versions he comes off, well, in the Adam Driver section, which people say Ben Affleck wrote, which might make sense because that's the most we see Ben Affleck in the movie. Matt Damon comes off kind of as a buffoon in the Adam Driver section of the movie. Like he's a bit of a buffoon in that version. And then in the Jodie Comer version of it, which they think the female screenwriter, I don't know her name off the top of my head. I think it's Nicole. I don't know the last.
Hofstadter.
Hofstetter.
Hall of Center.
Hall of Center. He comes off a bit of a dick, but he still has his honor and code, but it's like very stubborn and hard headedness, and it's more for his status. Like he doesn't care that it was promised to his wife as a dowry in this version. It's more like, well, this land was promised to me with me marrying her, as this is my land. And he's more upset about somebody else being with his wife and him wanting to confront, like, this is just one more thorn in his side with Adam Driver, right? That Adam Driver.
Yeah, the thing with the land in the first part, and Carouge's part, is that well, this is Marguerite's favorite piece of land. I want it to, stay around, and so she can, still walk the fields and stuff. And then in Legree's, it was he like you said, he thought of it as more of it being stolen from him, and yeah, like he needed to get it back for the reason of his manhood, and not because his wife loved the place, which is what he claimed in his version. And then of course in her version, the damn land doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's about burying a child, having an heir, um, and the truth of the whole matter, because this is all centered around her being raped by Legree. Um, he was Carouge was out in battle for a few months, and she was left alone. And Legree came to their house and had sexual relations with her. And we see it twice. We see it in his version, Legree's version, and we see it in her version.
Well,
And one is definitely more painful to watch than the other, but it is both very wrong.
well, I'll tell you why not only I think this is the truth, not just because the movie's telling us this and because we should believe women when they make accusations like this, but those two scenes, yeah, there's just a few differences because, like, it is pretty much very similar, like how it's done. And
Mhm.
what I think is probably a good thing on Ridley Scott's part, despite what people's thoughts of him personally are, he did shoot this scene with multiple camera angles, so they didn't have to shoot it so many times. Because I guess back me up if I'm in, or back me up if I'm correct on this, or correct me if I'm not. But when you shoot scenes, you often have to do them multiple times from different angles to get the full effect of the scene.
Yes.
So,
Normally, what you want to do is you have the wide of the scene, you have a two shot if it's two people, and then you have their coverage over the shoulder of her, over the shoulder of him. And usually it's one camera.
so Ridley Scott does that with multiple cameras, so they don't have to do that. So that I think that was a wise thing for him to do, not just for the subject matter of the scene, but also for the actors, because that had to not be a pleasant thing to film, even though
Yeah.
this is, acting. They're not really doing anything.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that they filmed both scenes back to back to get it out of the way too. Um,
Okay. Well, that's
you know,
also, yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's really tough, and when they actually show it, because and she said's a movie about the Weinstein hashtag Me Too, movement and how it all started. They never show any of the rapes or things that Weinstein did, and they never show his face either.
No, I think
Um,
that was smart. And
yeah,
like the only
and
thing we see the after effects of one set event with that one lady when she was younger. And then you hear a recording of the actual Harvey Weinstein with one of the said
yeah,
victims.
yeah. No, there's no person walking on screen, nothing. All they're doing is moving through a hallway with a 3-minute long recording, and it was very well done. And she said,
Uh,
uh, but yeah, so it is tough to put it in there. So when you do put something like that in there, it has to be for the story. It has to be powerful, and it really, really, really was. Um, so also in each three of the stories, all the actors act differently, just a little bit.
mm-hmm.
They're just like you said with Carouge. He's more courageous, and he's this fighter, which he is in all three. He is a fighter. It's funny, in the first one we didn't know he became knighted, but in the Legree one we found out that he was.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting, because that would be
And
definitely something that you would want to brag about a little bit.
and that's the other thing. Speaking of why I think the events that happen are real, is in the Legrige part of the story. There's a scene where he's at Affleck's estate or house, and they're having like a after party after their dinner party, and there's a lot of women, and basically this game or whatever they're involved in that Adam Driver does with this woman doesn't look 100% consensual to me. It's
Mm-mm.
his acts. And
And
if you
they even
notice, Ben
go ahead.
Affleck is not taking part in that game, and he does not even go to the bed till the woman invites him. So when they have that scene where Affleck confronts him, like, it's almost whereas Affleck's trying to convince himself that it didn't happen, like, because there's a part of him that's like, I think you are capable of this.
Right. And he uses the same line in that one as in the third story of, "If
Mm-hmm.
you run, I will only chase you," um, which is just disgusting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting, because We heard him say it in his version of the second story. Then we heard him the same line in the third story, which of course he would leave out of his version because it proves that he is capable of doing it. And then there's also there's a random like man in the room that they show to just briefly when he does say that line and takes the girl to the bed, where he does have a look of, this should not be happening, and it could be, she is saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I think this is a powerful movie. I want to talk about some of the aspects of this movie, rewatching it, being blown away again by the production design, the costume design, the hair design. These are all things that didn't even get looked at the Oscars. None of it.
Okay, well, let's just go right into that part of it. Like, this movie came out, it was mostly well received when it came out. Like, it was pretty much acclaimed by most critics. There were a few critics, some female too, which I said their complaints about this movie are valid. Like, I understand that. Like, I get some of the negativity towards this movie, but this movie did not do well financially. I
No.
believe a few things. I believe one, the subject matter. Two, it's a long movie. And three, we were like, in, I don't know which strain of COVID at the
Yeah.
time.
Yep. Omicron was around, and it was, yeah, limited capacity in the theater when I saw it, which I like that, but yeah, it was limited capacity.
And I think people at that point who were going to the movies were probably like, I don't know if I want to sit through this in the theater. Like, maybe I'll wait when it's on streaming because. And Ridley Scott was a bit salty about this movie not doing well, blaming millennials on their cell phones and superhero movies and lots of other things. And for whatever reason, I guess, well, Disney just kind of pooped the bed on most of these Fox films that they had left over from the buyout,
Hmm.
like in marketing them and like getting them out. Like, it's like Disney didn't even care about these movies, even though these were kind of more the awardsy type of movies. And for whatever reason, either Ridley Scott or Ridley Scott's publicist or Ridley Scott's marketing team were like, let's switch over to House of Gucci because that's doing better financially as the movie to kind of get awards attention, which it got Jared Leto. And did it get Lady Gaga a nomination too? No, Lady Gaga didn't get nominated, right?
I don't think so, but she did spend 8 months in character, apparently. Can you imagine just,
Which maybe there was a lot of too many other movies that were up because they did
it,
nominate West Side Story and Nightmare Alley, which were also Fox movies.
it was only nominated, House of Gucci, for makeup and hair. And I just got done saying how great the hairstyling was in Last Duel. More memorable than House of Gucci.
Okay, so House of Gucci, that's the only nomination it got. Okay.
Yeah, but the Last Duel got 0.
I know. And here's the thing. I think this is one of the two genres that Ridley Scott does well. And this is
Oh my
probably why
God,
he
yeah.
was brought on to direct, because this is the guy who did Gladiator. This is the guy
In
who did.
any other year, this would be up for Best Picture. This is a Best Picture quality movie. These are movies that the grandparents and dads like love to watch. Maybe not the subject matter, but castles and medieval, time, kings and queens and squires, knights. Like these are movies that, yeah, like any other year with this production and how big it is, like would be up for Best Picture. And it's just insane. It got nothing. Jodie Comer is phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah,
She
she
should
should
have
have
been up.
gotten a Best Actress nomination, I believe, because she's great
Absolutely.
in this movie.
Totally.
And I think So the only difference I really see in her performance is in the Matt Damon version, she comes off as just a doting, loving wife. But in the other two versions, you do get to see more of her personality. Like in her version, you see like she's actually like improving their estate and like putting
Yes.
his books into balance by collecting the rent and
Yeah, yeah, like making decisions. Like the oxens aren't moving, so let's get the horses to do it. Yeah, she had more personality. Well, when in the second one, Ben Affleck says that Karush is bringing out his wife from the dungeon. Finally, we get to see what she looks like. So she was seeming more captive in the Karuj estate than going out and about. Plus, they were also blocked by court; they couldn't
mm-hmm,
go out. So um, yeah, because he tried to sue him for the land again, and so he got blocked by court. And so now they go to make the go make up with Legree. And what a weird thing to ask your wife to kiss your friend
that is
as a
weird.
way of showing that the House of Carouge, there's no hard feelings. And each kiss is different, if you notice,
Mm-hmm,
just a little bit. In the first one, it seems more like a peck. In Legrige, it seems more like the sensual kiss.
mm-hmm.
And Carouge seems like he notices it a little bit. And then in the third one, she can tell that he was very aggressive on that kiss, and almost didn't seem like it was. Uh, uh, he shouldn't have done that. So,
Well,
um,
in his version, he's like, "Oh, I'm in love with her." Like he becomes obsessed with her,
mhm.
right? Like he's got to have her. And they have a repertoire in that banquet or wherever they're at scene where it seems like they're flirting,
Well, they're
but
talking about books because she's well
yeah.
read and he reads, and she knows languages and he knows languages.
Hmm. Which is why I think he becomes buddies with Ben Affleck because from a background, I think his character comes from like nothing, whereas Damon's character, at least his dad and grandfather hold land, and he like has,
He
he
held
has,
captaincy at Bellum.
yeah, and Adam Driver's character kind of comes up from nothing, right? He's educated. He's
Hmm.
self-educated himself and he kind of has learned to be sophisticated and like the finer things in life. Like he worked his way into that inner circle because he knew, well, this is how I'm going to impress people. And I think that's why Ben Affleck likes him. He's like, well, you know about good food, you know about good literature, you're smart, you help me with my books.
Yeah, but Matt Damon has a point. He saved his life. He's the reason why he's
Hmm.
even there, and because he was well read, he was into numbers as well. So Ben Affleck asked him to help him fix his books, and then they become really good friends. And even so much where yeah, Affleck gives him the things that belong to Carouge, which is the land, which is also the captaincy at Bellum. And rewatching it this time, I enjoyed those scenes more. And I know that it's Legree's version and he's making Carouge look like a bumbling idiot, but when he can't get on his horse, it's so much fun. And because it really lightens up the tension in the movie. And then when he makes him call him sir, that was such a powerful moment, but he still is kind of bumbling and fumbling through it. But I just, it actually made me feel more sorry for Carouge, and more like Legree was, kind of the dick. But I really enjoyed those scenes more this time around. And then this scene where uh, Marguerite is calling Carouge right before the end battle a hypocrite. That scene really stuck out to me this time, and really, it was really,
Well,
really
yeah,
powerful
because he
point.
just blusters in there headstrong. Well, I want to fight him to the death, and not even telling her like what the ramifications of this duel is going to be. Like if he loses, not only do they decide, oh, well, you're lying, they're also going to burn her at the stake.
Yeah, they she, I never noticed that the first time watching it. She's on a stand with brimstone and twigs and stuff at the bottom. And if Carouge loses, they're lighting that on fire, and she will be burned alive.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And the things are laughable in this, even though I think there are some men in places of power still that believe these ridiculous statements that the church and uh, people represented as part of the king's council, like, oh well, if you didn't enjoy it, you couldn't have gotten pregnant, and
Oh, right.
yeah,
How do you think girls get pregnant with rapes all the time now? Like, it's
yeah.
you don't have to orgasm to become pregnant. It does help, but it doesn't mean that it's you know it's gonna happen. Um, that is the one part of the movie that makes everyone think is she's pregnant at the end of the movie. She's never ever been able to bear an heir, and now
And
she's pregnant at the end of the movie, and this
cor-
is right after the rape
correct me
allegation.
correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't see that until we get to her side of the story, right? We don't
No.
see that she got pregnant in.
Mm-mm.
But I mean, in the Damon side, we just know that she tells them what happens, and they're like, "Tell everybody you know." And then in the Driver part, I guess it's more about him trying to convince Affleck and the church that he didn't do anything wrong, even though they all seem to be like, "Don't worry about it, buddy. We'll take care of this, and it'll be all fine."
Mm. Well, in Legree's part, he does the guy that he's talking to does say, "This will all go blow away," and he's like, "Well, what about my name?" And it's like, "Well, so you're worried about your name? You know, it could have all gone away." But yeah, at the apex of this movie, it's the last duel. Okay, if you're gonna
Hmm.
title something the last duel and then have it be the last thing in the movie, you have to make it the best part of the movie, right? And my God, is that last battle unbelievable?
So I clocked it this time watching it. Each of the individual parts of this movie before we get to the duel is about 40 or 45 minutes each.
Yeah,
And then we're left with about 25 minutes of the movie, which is mostly the duel and then like a little celebration at the end. And then the ending when it tells us like what the rest of her life was like after what happened.
yeah. Um, are we spoiling
I
or
mean,
should
yeah,
we?
this is a spoiler, so if I for these in-depth dive things, we always do spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie, it's basically been on HBO and Hulu for over almost about a year now. Because
Well,
like if
yeah, it came out in theaters October 2021, and then by December, I think it was on HBO Max. So a year.
yeah, so you're able if you want to go back and watch it. But yeah, we have already spoiled bits of this movie and we are spoiling it because this is an in-depth topic discussion of the movie. We're not just giving a like quick hot take on our opinion of the film, but again, this is where Ridley Scott strives in this whole dual battle sequence, which is basically to the death.
Yeah. Yep. And it is so brutal and close contact. And, they start off jousting and then they end up hand to hand combat, using daggers, swords, shields, whatever. And it's just so brutal because we've seen Matt Damon fight in these other,
The Bourne
Carouge.
movies,
Well, yes, but Carouge fight in these
yeah,
other
as
battles
himself,
at
yeah.
yeah in the early parts of the movies, and he is so badass. He's so raw. He's like, why do they run? Why do they run for the king? And then he just, like arrows are flying at him and bouncing off of his armor. And meanwhile, the people around him are dying, and he just looks death straight in the face and goes after it. And that's what he does in this last. The movie's called The Last Duel, so the last part of the movie is the last duel, and also. Uh, the way that council takes care of things aren't this way anymore. There is no more duels to find
Yeah,
out
this was
who's
the last recorded duel in France,
right.
which
So this was the
apparently
last.
in the movie the king thought it was outlawed, and they're like, there just
Yeah.
hasn't been one in 80 something years.
Which he's like 16, so how he's super
How's he
young.
gonna know? Yeah, we got a child king, but that's how things were. If your parent died, then whoever the heir
Mhm.
becomes the next ruler, no matter how old they are.
Yep. But that last duel was so awesome. What a great way to cap off, an already interesting movie, and bring more life to what we watched. And the last 2 or 5 seconds of that duel, where Matt Damon and Adam Driver are, telling each other, "Yeah, this is the last," and then that last push of the dagger where it's in his mouth and he's about to push it in, and then he just knees him in the back of the head, and that dagger goes straight through. Oh, that's so good. I mean, just great filmmaking, and shocking and surprising too, because um, everyone in the crowd was like, and it was such a gnarly way to die. And then they string him up naked, and the entire town can see that he is dead and was in the wrong. And yeah, Carouge and Marguerite get to spend the rest of their days together. Turns out Carouge died 3 years later in battle, and then Marguerite spent 30 years living on the land of Carouge, taking care of it, and never remarried.
Good
So
for her.
yeah,
Good for
yeah.
her. That's what she deserves. Just to have a happy life without any men telling her what she can and can't do.
The last scene of the movie, the last little bit that we see is of Marguerite with a grown boy, more than just the baby that we saw, and he has blonde hair. But her look in her face, what do you think that meant? Blonde hair it is good because Carouge had blonde hair, lighter hair, whereas Adam Driver had dark hair. But Jodie Comer is blonde, Marguerite's blonde. So did she get? What do you think that last moment meant when it's just sitting there on her face, looking at her kid? And is it Carouge? Is it Legree?
I mean, you would think if it's blonde that it has to be his baby, right? But I mean, the movie constantly questions that maybe it's Lagrange's child, right? Because like she's never been pregnant before. And I'm guessing Matt Damon had a previous wife and child that died, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because Lagrange makes a statement that I was godfather to his late son, and like
Mm-hmm.
he makes a reference because we never see Damon and Comer together as husband and wife in his version, but in her version, we get at least I think 2 scenes, if not 3, of them. In the Damon version, I think all we see is like them blessing the marriage bed after they get married, like
Mm-hmm.
them putting holy water and stuff on it. But like in the Comer version, we see at least 2 scenes of them having sex, and like it is not enjoyable sex on her part. Like,
It was right after she had said they talked about the horses, and how she's like, well, he knows how to ride horses, but he doesn't know how to like take care of them. And then we
mm-hmm,
see him on top of her, thrusting, having sex, and it's just like a bucking bronco, like it's like he's just going at it. Doesn't seem like it's really intimate, or it's not for pleasure. It's just
to
to
make an
bear
heir,
air. Yeah.
he wants an heir.
And I just thought that line was really interesting because he knows how to ride them. He just doesn't know how to take care of them. He knows how to ride the girl, just doesn't know how to take care of them. So I thought that was like really, really interesting, something that I noticed this time around.
Oh,
Um,
and in her scene when he's told about the rape, he acts horribly. He's like, "Well, we got to
mm,
have sex. He can't be the last man that had you."
yeah, well, and he says, "Did you come on to him to make him feel that way? You know, were you being a harlot?" Which that scene is so sad
Yeah.
when he comes home and she's wearing a new dress, but it has, the neckline is really low, and he doesn't even greet her. He just walks right by her and tells her to go
Mm-hmm.
change. Which,
Uh,
it's tough.
Interesting thing. I know you don't watch a lot of television shows, but Jodie Comer kind of got recognized for being on a BBC show called Killing Eve,
Yeah,
where
with
she's like a
Sandra
Russian
Oh.
assassin. And the
Hmm.
actress playing Matt Damon's mom is also on that show.
Oh,
She's
Harriet
like,
Walter.
yeah, she's like one of her old handlers or someone who trained her or something, basically.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's a really cool show you should check out. But yeah, this is a masterfully done film
Hmm.
by someone who knows how to make these historical epics. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's a little weird seeing Damon and Affleck with blonde hair and a mullet. Well, not Damon with blonde hair, but Damon with a mullet and Affleck with blonde hair. But I
Hmm.
think it's a really well done movie. I think they do
Yeah.
really good jobs all around.
Hmm.
You're right. I think Adam Driver does a great job because I think normally he's usually likable in his films, even in Marriage Story, even though he has that whole scene where he like breaks down and
He's Kylo Ren, and everyone loves him.
yeah.
You know, he's supposed to be the biggest villain ever, and everyone still is like, "I love Kylo Ren."
But this
And it's
movie
because
does a
of Driver.
very good job of making him a despicable, horrible human being. And yeah, Jodie Comer should have been in conversation for at least being nominated.
Yeah,
I don't
she
even
was
know
amazing.
who else was nominated other than Chastain. Oh, they should have taken
Oh,
Nicole Kidman out and put Jodie Comer in.
oh, hell yes, yes,
Yeah.
totally.
I don't even know the other three nominees, but like
Kristen Stewart for Spencer,
yeah,
Penelope
she's good.
Cruz for
I didn't
Parallel
see that, but
Mothers,
I'm sure I heard it was a great performance.
and then Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter. Get rid of Nicole Kidman, get rid of Olivia Colman, put in the lady from King Richard, and put in Jodie Comer from
Yeah,
the Duel.
yeah. But yeah, this is definitely proves Ridley Scott still can make a great movie, even though sometimes we
Yeah,
wonder because he makes so many movies and sometimes they're not so
two in
good.
1 year.
Yeah, he's done that before. Done that a
It's
few
amazing.
times. He did it with Black Hawk Down and Hannibal, and he did it with Alien Covenant and All the Money in the World. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well, it always seems to me that one seems to be better than the other. You know, because All
I,
the Money in the World did not do well,
no, and I
and
wonder if that is partly because we talked about it a little bit with Robbie, and I was like, I don't know why they didn't just have Christopher Plummer in that role to begin with, because I
yeah.
don't even know if I could have seen Kevin Spacey really in this role. Like that didn't make sense why they wanted to cast someone and then put him in a bunch of prosthetic makeup to make him look older.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of other
All right.
reasons why that movie probably didn't do well. Probably
Yeah.
because it was besides that aspect of it, I think also it's just because it was, they released so many movies at Christmas time for
Oh
awards
yeah.
consideration. Like, there's no way people can go see all these movies.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
like, people are like, I don't know, isn't, yeah, no, I don't want to see that. I don't even know what else was out at that time, but, people were probably going to see other things.
Yeah. It wasn't a great movie either.
No, it's not. It was kind of blah. And I feel like
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg is horribly miscast in that movie.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's kind of
2017.
criminal he got paid so much more money than Michelle Williams, because I'm like, she's
For the
doing all the
redo.
acting in this in their scenes.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
but apparently
uh,
Mark Wahlberg just has better agents than Michelle Williams does.
yeah. Well, she might be up for another Best Picture.
I mean, Best
Released on the
Actress.
Best Actress, yeah. Released on the same day as All the Money in the World. Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Well, there you go. That's what everybody went to see and then complained about later.
Ferdinand, the
Uh,
Bull animated movie. Also, The Greatest Showman.
yep. All three of those movies, people were like, I'd rather go see that. Even though I think
Mm.
Greatest Showman didn't do well its first weekend, but then like blew up after that.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Disaster Artist, Jumanji, Shape of
Hmm.
Water, Downsizing, The Post, Molly's Game. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Let me
those
run
movies are
through.
better than all the money in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me give you some of these last stats for the last duel. 7.4 on IMDb, which is
Hmm.
great. This is where we get hit. Box office budget. The budget was $100 million. Worldwide gross, $30 million.
Dang. That's
Eighty-five
worldwide?
percent. Yeah, 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. 81% audience score.
Okay, so they're in a pretty close agreement there.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I would give it. You know, 88, 89, 90, somewhere around there, because I thought it was, yeah. I mean, I just talking about it, I want to go rewatch it again.
Yeah,
But both
it's
these movies that we talked about today, The Last Duel and Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, are both on HBO Max.
yes, they are. I think The Last Duel's also on Hulu for whatever reason. There's a couple of Fox movies that are on Hulu and HBO Max.
Mm,
Well, West Side Story is actually on HBO Max and Disney, so that's kind of weird, but there you go.
yeah, yeah.
But what
Um,
is there
yeah.
anything else you want to say about this movie before we kind of wrap it up?
Uh, I think it's an important movie, something that you don't ever see this story being told in a movie like this. You
Hmm.
see it in a She Said and A Promising Young Woman sort of vehicle, but you don't see it in a man-filled sort of world, because yeah, the women are kind of thrown to the side, and was for so long, that I think this topic in this movie is, because what a lot of people said was that they were trying to be too woke, because of the Me Too movement and stuff like that. But I think it was smart, and it happened more than ever back then. So I think it was really
I
smart
di-
to bring
I
this
didn't hear
topic
anyone
to.
saying that though. I Were people saying this movie was too woke? Because I
Well,
heard people.
trying to put a topic into a movie that
Oh, but this is based on
normally
real
doesn't.
events.
Well, I know. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, so
I'm
how are
with you on that
they?
one.
I mostly heard complaints about the rape scene being done twice, and that this was mostly because it was directed and written mostly by men, and men saying all these lines and stuff. That's what I was more the complaints I heard about it.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Is like, you in a man's world, this topic doesn't normally come up. So I think that, even though it wasn't told necessarily by a woman, but the fact that men want to tell this story is very impressive. Because it's
Yeah,
not.
I think it's a step in the right direction for filmmakers. And would it been better handled? And look, we don't know how much Nicole had in the involvement of the screenwriting. She could have had a big percentage involvement. Maybe she, but they at least did get her to get involved in the script writing. So
Hmm.
I give them props for that. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's a very well made movie. Could there have been someone? Could a female filmmaker could have been a little more of a better touch? Maybe, but I think they wanted Ridley Scott because of it being set in this historical context, and that's probably how they were able to greenlight this movie with such a big budget, because they're like, well, you did Gladiator, so okay, we'll let you make this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Ben Affleck and Matt Damon on screen together again. So, yeah, I think this is a phenomenal film. If I was building a Ridley Scott Hall of Fame, this movie would be in it for me.
Yeah, agreed. Yes. Better than The Duelist.
Oh, yeah, I think so. We'll see if I have more than just my guess for House of Gucci, and if they don't have an opinion, then I get to build the Ridley Scott Hall of Fame in my mind, because I guess I won't have too many arguments. But yeah, The Duelist would not make it for me, even though I do enjoy that movie.
Yeah.
But
Let's see.
that's all
What
we
would I
got
put?
for.
Yeah.
That's all we
Yeah.
got
I
for.
mean,
Are you
it's
looking at his
really.
filmography?
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I would put.
Well, there are 4 films for sure I think have to be in there.
Gladiator.
Yes.
Alien.
Yes.
The Last Duel.
That's not one of the 4, but I said I would
Oh,
put
okay.
this in my Hall of Fame.
Well, I know it's not. Oh, White Squall.
No, God. But that is such a dad movie.
Blade Runner.
Yes.
And Thelma and Louise.
Yep, those are the 4. Those are the
Yeah.
4 I think for sure
Nice.
have to be in there. You can't do it without those 4.
Nice. Yeah, he's a very good director. Yeah, we talked about The Counselor last time. That's right.
That would not go in there. That would not go in there. I'm
All the
sorry. I'm
money in the
sorry for all the
world.
people who love it. I don't think that movie's as crazy as they think it is. I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of boring, but this movie is not boring. So I'm glad he's got
No,
another.
God, no.
Yeah.
And what we talked about earlier about me trying, to just have it on the background and then getting engaged and engulfed into it. It's what Ridley said is like, kids on their phones and Marvel movies or whatever. If the movie is good, it'll make you put down your phone, and that movie is good enough to make you put down your phone. So kids just need to give it the chance to put their phone down, because it is that gripping and that well done.
Yeah, if you like historical dramas or you like Ridley Scott, definitely check it out. Or if you like to see Matt Damon and Ben Affleck stretch their acting muscles a little bit, check it out. It's worth it.
It's
It's
worth
a
the view.
well-made movie. But I definitely understand if the subject matter is something you don't want to engage yourself in. That is perfectly valid and understanding. But if you can get yourself in the headspace to deal with it, because we have, it's been discussed and pre-warned, and, it would have been probably nice to have had a female guest with us to get their perspective on this movie as well. But it is what it is. Maybe one day we can talk about it again, so you get to watch it again.
Oh yeah.
But I'm pretty sure had Chris and Lindsay been on, I think Lindsay was opting to not be a part of this discussion because she was not interested in watching this movie, which I understand.
Yeah.
It's not. But that's all I got for this topic. Thanks for 1, coming on, 2, agreeing to put these 2 together, because it's not a double feature that makes sense at all, other than in my own mind, and also trying to be like, well, it's Christmas time. Might as well do the Grinch now instead of having to wait a whole nother year to talk about it.
Perfect. No, they're both movies that I really enjoy. So
Well, there
I
you
will
go. At
double
least
deal these anytime.
did you watch the Grinch at all before this, or were you like,
Oh
I
yeah,
know this is
We watched
okay?
it. No, we watched it Thursday night.
Oh,
Yeah.
me too.
No.
I watched it
I was in.
Thursday night.
Yeah. Again,
And then
it's my girlfriend's favorite movie, so it wasn't hard to convince her.
okay. Well, that's good. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining the show again. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. My man.
I'm not going to see you tomorrow night with Chase because I'll be out and about and also seeing the
Oh,
Fablemans. So
okay.
let you know what I think of the Fablemans. And
Yes.
before I let you go, just had one other question because I know you are a member of the Screen Actors Guild, so you kind of know the ins and outs and the gossip of what's going to be going on for the next couple of months. What of these award potential movies should I and other people check out when we get a chance to see them in our areas or when they come to streaming?
Okay. So like Oscar contenders this year?
Potentially, yeah, because at the end
Okay.
of the day, we really don't know. There can always be some sort of surprise.
All right. Well, I think The Banshees of Inisherin, that is a great, great movie that will probably be up for Best Picture.
Maybe
Um,
best actor, best director, maybe best
could
screenplay.
Yep, all possible. The Fablemans is for sure going to be in that sort of talk, but I don't. I'm not as behind it as I want to be. Um,
No.
Unfortunately.
You may
Uh,
need to give it a rewatch. I have noticed with a lot of Spielberg's later movies, they do play better on rewatches sometimes.
yeah, yeah, maybe. We'll
I think
see.
it's just
I'm
too iconic of a filmography. We want what we got out of those earlier movies that have such an impact on us, but he's making entirely different types of movies now.
Yeah. Well, I would rather watch West Side Story again than The Fablemans.
Okay, okay. Speaking of
Yeah.
more recent fare. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it was. It just didn't tack on. But the Fablemans will for sure be. Tar is going to get some love, maybe from director, but for sure for actress. Kate Blanchett is
Hmm.
amazing, amazing, amazing. There's a movie called Women Talking that is coming out soon. Frances McDormand
Have
produced
you
and
seen that?
co-stars. Yes, very, very
Is
good.
it as good as some people are saying it is?
It is literally a movie about women sitting around talking about.
Do you do you think of this and she said, do you think this is the one that's more going to get the award contention? Because I think not only because I think it's a little more showy of a directing, and plus Sarah Polley is kind of a well-liked person in the
Mhm,
industry. Do you
mhm,
think that like that's gonna push that one more so than she said? Because she said it's almost like a docudrama in a way,
mhm,
like
mhm.
Spotlight.
Yeah, well, I think they're both very well done, and yeah, same topic. Um, uh, but I think Women Talking has more of a stance. I don't know. They both came out. Like the end result is very powerful and necessary. So it is tough, but I think Women Talking has mm, more of a styling than She Said did. Uh,
Yeah, that's what
and,
I was wondering if that's probably gonna sway it over more so than she said.
all the women in it are fantastic, but so is Ben Whishaw, and I think he's going to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh yeah.
Um, this has a I don't know where this one lives because it's not an international film, even though it is an international made movie, but it's mostly American language. Is Triangle of Sadness, which was awesome.
Yeah, which I've heard mostly good things about, but I think it's a little more mixed. Like they're saying from this director, it's kind of their least favorite movie of his. And
Wow.
also because it has similar subject matter to maybe more liked films that are coming out, like because I know that like the new Knives Out movie kind of has a similar vibe of like Eat the Rich and I don't think the menu's gonna get Oscar nominations, but it has doing pretty well commercially, and it also has that kind of same theme and vibe that I guess Triangle Sadness has.
Mhm. Mhm. One that's getting a lot of buzz I haven't seen is called After Sun. That's like a lot
Yeah.
of people's favorite movie of the year. And then the last one I'll mention, which will for sure be an international talk, could be up for Best Picture, is All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, I saw this. I kind of respect it more than I enjoyed it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like it was
Sure.
kind of hard for me to get into the story because it was kind of, and I don't know why Netflix does this. If it's supposed to be an international film, why they show it dubbed instead of in its actual language? Like, is
Well,
it supposed to be?
you have the option. You can change
I
it.
know, but like when I put on Roma, it doesn't start in dubbed. It starts in
Right.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why
I
don't
don't
they
know.
just do that for all these movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I have the option. I'm wondering why
Okay.
Netflix.
Cool.
But the weird thing is when I watched Drive My Car, it started without subtitles. Like it was just talking without subtitles. I had to like put the subtitles on. But regardless of that issue, because I could have just went and then I was like, fine, I'll watch it dubbed just to see how it's done. But I'm sure it's better in German, like watching
Mm,
it with subtitles. But like I had a
yeah.
hard
It
time
is.
like staying in the story because it kind of went from person to person. I didn't know which character I was supposed to, I guess it's more just about the horrors of war, right? Like how
Mhm.
terrible war is.
Mhm.
But I thought it was well made. It's just I not my favorite war movie. I didn't like it as much as Robbie did. I don't think it's the best war movie since Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's very good, and I liked it a lot. And then just a couple more. I am excited to see Babylon. I know that's getting a lot of mixed reviews, but the performances to look out for, the ones that I do think people aren't seeing or haven't seen yet, you got to go see Till. Danielle
okay.
Deadwyler is amazing. She's so freaking great. She just won the Gotham Award for Best Actress. Um, actually, Best Actor, period, because it was in a men and women.
That's right.
And
They combine them, don't they?
Yeah, so she beat out even the men, which is great. And then obviously The Whale is getting a lot of talk for Brendan Fraser and his performance. So I haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
but I'm looking forward to that one, Babylon, and everyone should go check out
From
Till.
what I hear from the Well, it's most likely just going to be a Brendan Fraser nomination, and maybe what is her name that she might get nominated for Best
Yeah, like
Supporting.
the Asian girl in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know who she is, but yes.
Because I heard the movie, a
Um,
lot of people weren't that hyped about the movie itself.
Hung Chow is her name.
Yeah, she's also in the Menu, which I hear she's great in that as well.
Oh, yeah, I heard that's a great movie. I haven't seen it. She's in Artemis Fowl,
She's
Driveways,
in Downsizing is probably what most
Downsizing.
people remember her from, and she was on
Oh.
the Watchmen TV series. She was really good
Mhm,
in, and she has a small part in Inherent Vice.
mhm.
Yeah. Well, Justin, thanks. I'll try to catch as many of those as I can when they're available to me. I know Tar is available to rent. But I don't know if I want to spend $20 watching it like
Just make
online.
sure it's like 2.5 hours. Just make sure you have the time, like if especially if you rent it, like if you don't finish it in the first viewing,
When
you
you
need
when you rent them, you only got like 2 days to watch it.
well, I know, so that's what I'm saying. Make sure that you're in the it was tough to sit through in the theater. I will say that it does feel a little bit like homework, but my God, was she so good? And there's some great oneers in it, and I still think about it. So,
Well, there you go. I appreciate it. I'm sure you'll be talking about this for the next upcoming 3 months up until Oscars. So
oh yeah,
we'll have your thoughts and opinions. And thank you for coming on the show and talking these two movies. Enjoy
Thanks
the
for
rest
having
of
me.
your weekend,
You
and
too.
you'll for sure be back in the new year because you're going to be talking Night Shift with us, which I guess will be a first watch for both of us. Because
Oh,
I've
all
never seen
right.
it before, but it's the movie that kind of made Michael Keaton a name.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to watch it.
He was in a movie called Night Shift and The Paper.
Yeah, he's done 3 movies with Ron Howard.
Wow. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Go check me out on Worth the View Movies and all the things. And yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you about movies.
Absolutely. I'll see you soon, I'm sure, either with Chase or Robbie at some point.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Have a great one.
Take
We'll
it
talk
easy.
soon.
Thank you. Bye.